Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jordan Bass. I'm the Vice President for Cobb Valley FC. And as we inch towards the midway point of the season here this weekend, we want to check in with our friend Andy Edwards. Andy writes for The Athletic, covers all things MLS and Sporting Kansas City, also hosts the Talking Touches podcast, and most importantly for this discussion has been the voice of the Cranes along with Kevin Romery for the last 2 years on Midcoast SN broadcasts there in our Lawrence home matches. Did I miss any soccer content you got there, Andy, or is that about it?
No, I think you got the most of it. I try to do as much as I possibly can. If people say, hey, come do this work for us and we'll pay you for it, I'm there.
That's a good strategy. I like that. Let's hop right into it. So at this point in time last year, the Cranes were 2-2-1, coming off a loss to Des Moines. This year's team, 4-0-1, 4 straight victories. Just announced this morning, moved to number 1 in the Central Conference Power Rankings by the league. What's some differences you've seen between these two teams for the Cranes in their second year?
I think the biggest difference between last year's team and this year's team is the mentality. The 2018 team wasn't weak mentally by any means, but we've seen on a number of occasions already this season different tests from the first home game being postponed and having to play 2 games on the same day in 2 different cities a couple weeks ago to playing a pair of games already on a very difficult field in St. Louis, giving up a late equalizer against St. Louis last Friday at home, only to then grab a stoppage time winner and take what was a really deserved 3 points. There have been a few moments where I'm not sure how last year's team would have responded if it would have been in the same way. And I think that kind of proved itself over the course of last season. And so to me, that's been the biggest difference and the biggest reason that right now we're talking about an unbeaten team 5 games into the season.
So if for somebody who hasn't come out and watched the Cranes yet or hasn't got to see any of the streams, just briefly describe the playing style of this year's team, what you can expect if you come out to the park.
Well, if you're a fan of Sporting Kansas City, the style of soccer is going to look very familiar. This is a team that plays hard on both sides of the ball. They work and fight defensively the same way that they do when they're in possession of it. There's not really a true center forward on the team, so they kind of spread the goals around what is a really versatile group of attackers, a fun group of attackers to watch as well, particularly out wide and then kind of pushing on from central midfield as well. The fullbacks provide a lot of the width in the attack, and they love to get forward. The goalkeeper will play the ball short to his center backs to start building out of the back. These are all concepts that have trickled down from Sporting Kansas City, having that partnership between the 2 organizations that this is the way that soccer's played in the Midwest now. Anybody affiliated whatsoever with Sporting is going to have that similar possession-based style of soccer. And for a group that's been together barely 3 weeks this summer, I have to say, Coach Istvan Urbani's team looks like they've been doing this together for years already. Just the fluidity and the connections that they have with one another, the chemistry has been so evident in the last couple of games, especially at Rock Chalk Park.
You talked about those different positions. What are maybe some specific players who stood out to you so far? Last year, Tucker Stevenson obviously had 9 goals for the Cranes, was the main source of offense. This year, of the 10 goals, 8 have been scored by different people. So it's obviously, as you mentioned, been spread out all over. Who are some players who have stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't think you can start with anyone but Ponte. Stunning goals in back-to-back games at Rock Chalk Park for completely different reasons. By the way, the one that he scored against Thunder Bay was a laser from 20 yards out, like upper 90 perfection. And then the one he got against St. Louis on Friday was easily the best piece of soccer that I've seen from Cobb Valley this season. The 1-2-3-4 combination between Ignacio Larrick, Ponte, Larrick, and Ponte again all occurred in about 2.5 seconds time. And it ended with Ponte tucking a right-footed finish inside the far post. I have a feeling we're going to talk more about them in just a minute. So I'll jump to Mano Busquets. Really came on strong in the second half of last Friday's game. I know he scored against St. Louis on Sunday as well. But after Larrick came off in that game on Friday, the Cranes needed someone to be the main outlet when they won the ball back to progress the ball up the field. And Busquets really took it upon himself to take on every Lions defender one-on-one, and he beat just about all of them. And then defensively, Chase Bromstead at left back has continued to stand out to me game after game, at least in the 2 at Rock Chalk Park. Thunder Bay and St. Louis tried to build everything down the right side of attack right at Bromstead, and he's come out of 180 minutes essentially of relentless pressure, having given up just the 1 goal down that side of the field, and that came inside the first 10 minutes of the first home game. He has been rock solid defensively for this team, and I think a big reason the Cranes have had such a good attacking platform to build on.
Let's talk about that chemistry between Ponte and Larrick. We saw after the first match a bit of a shift in where they were placed on the field that really seemed to kind of set them off, and just the amount of creativity between them, I think, has been amazing to start the year. Talk about that connection between those 2 attacking forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not the kind of combination play you would expect to see from a couple guys who've only been playing together for a handful of weeks now. And I think that speaks to the soccer IQ of those two individuals, the willingness to play together and play for the team, and the way that Coach Urbani has kind of set this team up and identified them as what are the star attackers, the star players on this team, and put them in positions where they can combine on the field together. Because even without the time together and the chemistry and everything, they have the soccer brains, the IQ that they can kind of pick that up on the fly. So Ponte is, he's playing essentially now with Larrick moved out to the wing as kind of a center forward, very much in the same way that Christian Nemeth plays for Sporting Kansas City. A very technical player, very, very smart player, a creative player, but by no means the big physical kind of, possession hold up force that you would, that we've, I guess, come accustomed to with Sporting Kansas City. But he brings a completely different style and the ability to move out to the left wing for a minute or two, move out to the right wing for a minute or two, and then switch places with Larrick, and it becomes really fluid. And I think it's caused defenses a lot of trouble dealing with those two because the movement of them is so good. And then Larrick, the first game at Rock Chalk Park, started at center forward for 45 minutes. At halftime, moved out to the wing, and everything changed completely for this team. And those combinations begin to really show themselves. So they are obviously the star attackers on this team. And I think it's a huge credit to not only Coach Urbani, but the players themselves, that they have been able to figure this thing out on the fly, and that they seem to enjoy playing with one another as much as they do. After that quick combination against St. Louis, Ponte immediately sought out Larrick with, Thank you very much for that. That was a beautiful piece of soccer, and it could not have happened without you.
Let's dig deeper into Friday's match against St. Louis. A real back and forth affair. Cobb Valley comes out, controls most of the possession early, controls really the first 45 minutes. Then it flips. What was your big takeaway just from the general atmosphere and the kind of general feelings around that first real home match in Lawrence, with the first one getting stormed out, moved to a Saturday morning?
Yeah, it was a thrilling game. I'll begin with because it really was. You had Cobb Valley, as you said, in complete control, domination of that game up until the halftime mark. And then St. Louis gets their equalizer about 75 minutes or so, and then up until that point in the second half, and then after that point as well, due to I think probably a handful of subs having been made at that point by Cobb Valley, St. Louis just in complete control and probably should have scored a second goal during that period. And then, that they hit the post with one, had a great header saved and pushed around the post. They were then made to pay, obviously, 93rd minute stoppage time winner by Bryce Gibson, coming off of Christopher Bagne's shot that's going to go just a little bit wide, and the quick little, back heel into the post. When I talked about the mentality at the very beginning of this, that's exactly what I'm talking about right there. To have given up that goal after being in such control, a lot of teams at a lot higher levels in the world will fold in a situation like that. To have been in such control and not gotten that second goal the way that they needed to in that game, and find themselves suddenly fighting, scrapping just to keep it at 1-1 and then somehow come out of there with a victory. I thought that the atmosphere, the fans really pushed them on and gave them just that little bit of extra inspiration at the end of that game. The crowd down there in the south end of the stadium at Rock Chalk Park was really bringing it all night long. And so just all those little things put together, the mentality, the fans, the talent of this team as well, I think kind of culminated and came together and gave us a little bit of a glimpse of what a special team that this could be in 2019. Because we know that the talent's there. It's all about how they're able to put it together kind of on the fly during a really short season this summer and what they're able to achieve. And I think that was a little bit of a warning sign to the rest of the league, to the rest of the conference, that this is a team, as we talked about, a little bit different in 2019 than they were in 2018. They will not fold under the first bit of pressure. They have staying power, I believe, in 2019 at the top of the standings.
So 5 matches in, what's the biggest area you think this team needs to improve if they are going to get one of those 2 playoff spots out of the Central Conference, or out of the Heartland Division for the Central Conference?
Yeah, I think when you're a goal up, especially at home and in complete control of the game the way that they were, and you've hardly given the other team a chance to get the ball past midfield, let alone create a scoring chance, you have to put the game away. From all the chances that you create, you have to finish one of them and give yourself a comfortable 2-goal lead. Because I think when the halftime whistle blew last Friday, St. Louis were obviously disheartened at how badly they were outplayed in the first half. They were a goal down, but I think they were also a little bit encouraged by the fact that despite all that possession, all those chances, and the goal that they had given up, they were still very, much in that game, and they came out with a completely different energy to start the second half, and then they were the team that was on top almost immediately from the restart. So I think that is kind of the missing piece of the puzzle, and we saw it a little bit in the game against Thunder Bay. Let them hang around for just a little bit longer than maybe they would have liked to have done. St. Louis over the weekend, it took a couple of late goals on the road. Again, the difficult playing surface, and kind of a rotated team as well. So they found ways to come out with points and with victories in every single game. But if they're going to kind of make that jump into what is an upper echelon, the elite tier, if you will, of this league and this conference, I think that is the missing piece, and the one thing that certainly on Friday against an expansion team in Green Bay that I'll be looking for. If you get the early goal or a goal at any point, continue to press, create those chances, and put one away. Give yourselves an easy victory. They don't all have to be difficult. Give yourself an easy victory, and you can kind of cruise to the final whistle. That's the mark of a really good team to me.
We'll get you out of here on this one. What's your favorite Istvan moment of the season? We see that Midco Sports camera that's right by him. We might as well call it the Istvan cam. Last year, we captured some great moments. We've already had some good ones this year. What's your favorite one from Coach so far?
Yeah, brilliant planning to put the camera just right there by Coach. He's a walking GIF, if you will. Actually, coming out of halftime last Friday, it wasn't a celebration or anything, but he was standing on the sidelines with Ponte and Larrick, and I saw him having a highly engaged conversation with his two-star attackers. You know, the coaching never stops with Istvan. Up a goal, in complete control of the game, but he knew what could happen in the second half if his team didn't come out with the right approach. And I think that's the sign and the mark of a coach who's got, one, the full respect of his players because of the way he treats them as grown men, and respects them and the way that they work for the team, and always has something new, no matter how big or how small, to teach them. And it would have been really easy in that moment, I think, for those two to only be paying half attention to what he was saying. Coach, we're up a goal. We're good. We got this. But they were completely laser focused, locked in, and absorbing every word that Istvan had to give to them in that moment. And I have to believe that at some point, whether in that game or at some point during the season, something that they took from that moment or any conversation that they've had with him at any point during the season is going to come up really big for this team, for one of those individuals, and potentially be a difference maker. So I come away so impressed, not only with the way that the team plays game after game at Rock Chalk Park, but the way that Coach Urbani goes about his business and handles his team and has his players that play not only for themselves, not only for their teammates, but for him as well. They are out there giving absolutely everything for everyone within the organization, and it's been an absolute delight to see.
Andy, thank you, my friend. We'll read you on The Athletic, listen to you on Talking Touches, and see you next Friday, Thursday, and then Saturday for the final three Midco SN games for Cobb Valley FC.
Jordan, I'm really looking forward to it.